Hi, I'm Rob from robnunphoto.com, and today I just wanted to do a quick video talking about flash or speedlight for your Canon EOS 600D T3i or generally any other sort of Canon digital SLRs. If you've been following the YouTube channel, you'll know that I've done a number of videos as kind of quick guides, essential accessories to get you started with your 600D or your T3i, sort of things that you may still have a little bit of gas once you've got your camera. You might have a little bit of gear acquisition syndrome, and you might well be thinking, right, well, I've got my camera, I've got my 18-55 lens, I've got my 55 to 250, I've even got a 51.8, I've got some macro extension tubes, I've got my spare memory card, I've got my spare batteries, I've got a nice bag to put it all in, and now what do I buy next? Well, I would say an essential accessory that you must have is an off-camera flash. I say an off-camera flash, it's a bit of an odd word that, because a lot of the time you use it on the camera, maybe a dedicated flash unit, something like this. Because with your camera, and we all love our cameras, but one of the problems with them is that when they're when they use the pop-up flash, the pop-up flash is great in certain situations, but the light it creates isn't all that flattering, isn't all that dynamic, and it tends to make our photos look incredibly similar to the ones that people take with their camera phones or with their compact cameras. And the reason for that is you're taking the picture sort of, the subject in front like this, and the light is very, very close to the lens, so it comes down, so it makes everybody kind of look a little bit washed out and pale. It's not very flattering. Think about it in terms of when we're trying to kind of understand light and think about what is nice light. Think about if you were going out for a nice evening walk with your loved one, maybe it's your missus, maybe it's your girlfriend. It's a nice evening, the sun's low in the sky, you've got this lovely, say, orange sunset light coming down, and you've got these lovely shadows, the light's nice and soft. That would be pretty beautiful, that, wouldn't it, that sort of light? Now imagine you're in the middle of the desert and the sun's blasting down on you. That light wouldn't be quite as flattering, would it? And it's a bit like that. Think about that desert light. It's a bit like this light coming off here. It's blasting straight at us. And the beauty of having a dedicated flash unit that looks like these is basically it's this movement here, like that, or like that. Really, really important. Now, I will do videos, and we'll talk about later on in future videos about off-camera flash. But for now, I'd like to say one of the best things you can buy if you take photographs inside of your loved ones, of your family, or you're thinking about doing portraits and stuff like that, is one of these babies. Because what you do is that they're very, very simple. It just clunks onto your camera, like so, 600D. It'll have they have lots of different ways of fixing onto the hot tube, but this one screws down. And then when it's like that, it's pretty much the same as your pop-up flash. But the magic, the absolute magic, is when you go like that. And instead of the light coming down straight like this, it goes up. It bounces off the ceiling and comes down and washes across your subject, just like that sunset light could do, creating natural light-looking shadows. It makes the light bigger as well. A little rule of thumb you could always remember is the bigger the light, so the bigger the light source, the softer the light. Again, imagine you've got like a torch and you're shining it on somebody's face. You know, like at Halloween where people shine torches from underneath, don't they? And you get these funny looking shadows, makes them look weird. Counterbalance that against sitting next to a nice big bay window and the light coming in nice and soft. Well, the heads on these flashes are pretty small, aren't they? On the pop-up flash it's even smaller. But if we can bounce this light off a big ceiling, a big white ceiling, that light becomes massive and becomes really, really flattering. And not only can we bounce it up, we can bounce it off side walls, we can bounce it that way. Little rule of thumb again, you tend to always bounce the light in the direction that your subject is facing. So if I was taking a picture of me now and I was facing that way, like that, I would probably bounce it that way. But again, you can play around, and this is amazing. You can bounce it straight up, depending on the model. My one snaps off on this one, but you'll have a fill card as well that you can pop up here, and the light. Then you then get the main light bouncing off the ceiling or whatever, and then you'll get another light sort of showing straight into your subject's eyes. And the idea of that is to create a nice catch light in their eyes. You could even fire it that way. You can get into things like feathering the light. We get maybe a little bit advanced, but the idea is that when the light comes out of a flash, it's not just coming out like a laser in a straight line. It's coming out kind of at an angle like this. And so what you can do is, if your subject was here, say like that, I might only want the edge of this flash to catch it, because that light would be a lot softer and not as harder. And so I could then angle that just to feather it, just to catch it. So that's all well and good. So you say, oh, brilliant, Rob. Yeah, definitely. I want to buy a dedicated flash unit. The question now is, what do you get? Because there's really two main types of dedicated flash units you can buy. There are ones like this one that was on my 600E T3i, which is Yongnuo YN560, or you could get something like this one, which is the YN565EX. Now, although they look pretty much identical, and the heads do almost exactly the same thing. Oh, right, yeah, this one's still got the flash card attached to it. So when we were talking about, so if you were taking a picture of a person, one of the things you could do is you'd have the flash on your camera like that, have that bouncing up, and then that card would then reflect the light that way. But anyway, back. So we've got two flashes that look the same, but they work in different ways. This is a manual flash, the YN560. When your camera talks to this flash, it's pretty much it's one way. The camera says fire the flash, and the flash goes okay, and it fires itself. What's up to you as the front photographer to do is to go into the settings at the back and choose how strong you want that flash to be. With an automatic flash like the YN565, this uses something called ETTL or ETTL2 they use now. And so what that means is that when this is on the camera, he says, putting it on in a bit of a crap way. When this is on the camera and the camera says, well, the first thing the camera says, it says, hi flash, how you doing? And then the camera then says, fire the flash. The flash says, okay. The flash then fires, and the camera then looks at the scene and goes, brilliant, I know how powerful you are, flash. I can see what exposure the scene needs. The camera then adjusts the power of the flash automatically. So that's brilliant. So there's no mucking around changing the settings of the flash. Now you can, if you want to. All ETTL flashes will do have a manual setting as well. But ETTL is very, very powerful. Now, you may well have already come across a guy called the Strobist, David Hobby, and he has this fantastic site where he explains how you can use flashes, manual flashes that is, to great effect. And he does incredibly. And often, if you're in a situation where things aren't changing, so you're in a studio, maybe your camera's on a tripod and you're in a fixed position, maybe you're taking a picture of a subject and maybe the poses are changing and stuff, but the lighting conditions really aren't, or where you're doing it really aren't. I think that manual flashes are excellent, and they're a great way of getting you into dedicated flash photography, because they're a lot cheaper. However, if, like me, you're an amateur photographer, or you're a professional in a situation where you're moving from place to place, room to room, situation to situation, or maybe you're chasing a rather excitable 4-year-old around at Christmas, having to change the exposure on your flash can be a little bit tricky in different situations. Whereas with an ETTL flash, all you do is you can just have it aimed up at the ceiling, and as you run from room to room trying to chase that 4-year-old, taking the flashes, it will work and give you acceptably exposed photographs every single time. Fingers crossed, touch wood. And it really is very, very exciting indeed, because when you start to bounce this flash off the ceiling or off the walls, your photos start to look very, very different indeed. It really is. It is magical. Now, you may be saying, "What? Wait a minute! You've got a Canon camera, but you've got a Yongnuo flash. You know, why is that?" Well, the reason for that is, is budget. You know, I can't afford dedicated Canon flashes, but I'll talk about those in a sec. There's lots of third parties who make them as well. You can buy them on the internet. Just make sure you get an ETTL flash, ETTL2 flash, so that your Canon will talk to the flash, and they will then work out what the correct exposure should be for the particular scene. Now, obviously these are cheaper than the Canon ones, but there's a price to pay, and the price to pay is reliability and build quality. You know, there's no way that this Yongnuo flash, which probably retails, I don't know, 50, 60 pounds, maybe 100 pounds max, is going to be anywhere near as something like a 580EX from Canon. But you know, but the 580EX or the 600EX flashes, they're professional quality flashes that are, you know, are there to be bought by professionals, to be dragged around the world, you know, and to work for years and years, to have massively high outputs, and so. This is kind of something in between. Let me just pause the video while I get the phone. It's just ringing. Right, sorry about that. Just had to get the phone. So, as I was saying, can't really afford dedicated Canon flashes. So I went for Yongnuo ones. Also, it helped the fact that there were some chaps at our local car boot sale selling them pretty cheap as well. And I've been very pleased with my Yongnuo flashes, both the manual ones, which I've got several of, well, about 4, and the fully automatic one, which I've only got the YN565EX, but I'm not a power user by any means of flash. The on-camera flash tends to come out at Christmas or any time we're having like a family occasion when we're in the house, you know, and I'll be shooting away, taking lots of photos, because it just makes it so much easier, and the photos look so much better than when I use the on-camera flash. So it's definitely a dedicated flash unit is a must-have accessory. But my advice to you is get a ETTL one so that you can have automatic flash. A couple of little things as well. The way you tend to shoot them, again, as soon as you put the flash on the camera recognises there's a flash on the top. I tend to shoot in aperture priority mode, and then I go into the settings and I set the sync speed to a 200th of a second. Okay, and then I adjust my aperture to suit. Now, the reason why I think it's important to do that for lots of situations is that if you don't and you leave the shutter speed up to the camera, what it will do is it will do a very, very clever thing. It will try and balance the background lighting, the ambient light, if you like, of the scene with the light from the flash. So the idea is that you have a neutral kind of looking scene there, where the person in the front who you're taking the flash picture of is well lit, but then the background is nice as well. But the only way that it can do that in difficult lighting conditions is by using longer shutter speed. So when you read your manual, it'll say to you, if you're doing that, make sure you put the camera on a tripod. So if you don't change that, what happens is you'll use the flash, and the flash will fire, and it'll be very bright, and it'll freeze the person probably, but then it'll leave the shutter speed open, and then so you'll get some blurring afterwards, and maybe in the background you get some blurring of things moving as you're kind of wandering around with the camera. So I go into your settings, go into custom functions, and change the sync speed to a 200th of a second. That means that you'll probably avoid camera shake, and you're just using the flash really to light things up. And then when you get more advanced, obviously you go into manual and you can start shooting that way. So I'll promise you to talk about some other flashes as well. So the ones to look out for if you've got the cash, go for the Canon ones are fantastic, and remember, go for the ones that end in EX. When you're looking on the internet, on eBay or around car boot sales and things like that, you'll probably come across Canon flashes that are called EZs, but they're the ones that we used on the old film cameras, and you don't want them because they're not going to be compatible. And in fact, you really want to avoid any older flashes. Just don't take the risk of fixing older flashes onto your new digital SLR unless you are 100% positive they're not going to blow it up, because these older flashes, they can use very, very high voltages in them indeed, which means they can damage your camera. So if in doubt, do not use them. Older flashes are fine for going off camera if your triggers are compatible with older flashes, but don't risk them. Don't put them on your new DSLR when you can buy a compatible flash, you know, for very reasonable prices on Amazon or on eBay. Just make sure they're ETTL2 compatible. But you know, the current kind of Canon lineup of ETTL flashes are things like the 600EX, which is their flagship flash, the 430EX2, which is probably, you know, an advanced amateur's flash, very good, or something like the 320EX, which is a smaller bounce and swivel head as well, that's also got an LED light for video. So that seems quite interesting to me. That would be something I would be interested in indeed. So there we go. Hopefully this sort of quick introduction to dedicated flash units has kind of whetted your appetite for getting one, and maybe taking away some of the reticence and some of the fear about getting one. So if you fancy going fully manual, then by all means get something like the YN560 or his little brothers, and have a manual flash, because you know they do work, but it takes you do have to change the settings on the flash independent of the camera. My recommendation though is get one that's ETTL compatible, a fully automatic flash, because when you want to go manual, you can. The settings are all there. Okay, they are more expensive, but you'll get pretty much instant results and you'll really enjoy the photographs you get. My name's Rob from robnophoto.com. Thanks for watching.